town manager, and Teresa Cuevas, assistant to the town manager. All members are present. Other attendees are Lynelda Gaskins and Beverly Wright from the clerk's office, and Mark Rutledge from Node Zero IT. First item is a discussion and rating of the proposals. All members of the selection committee were provided rating forms to complete, which match the criteria which was included in the RFP. I should first mention that the town received 2 proposals from BS&A and from Tyler Technologies, and those will be the 2 proposals that will be discussed and rated today. I guess we will start with Teresa.
Okay. Based upon the proposals that were received, I will go through, I guess, my Tyler Tech.
I'm sorry.
Sure. So for Tyler Tech, they are a current vendor. So I have that as a, do you want me to go through my comments or just give my ranking?
You can give some overall impressions
Okay.
of each one, and then we can talk about rankings after.
Okay. So to continue, Tyler Technologies is our current vendor. As them being our current vendor, they provide support for the tech support software. I don't think there has been any issues with support to date. Based on their proposal, they offered the cloud-based option, which I think was something that was a positive attribute for Tyler Technologies. With regard to integration, based upon our questions that were proposed to Tyler Tech, they don't seem to integrate with Laserfish or with Paylocity or SmartGov. And as well as if we add additional licenses for the SaaS-based option, it's $575 per user. And I think we would need an additional 5 licenses.
Per year.
Per year, per user. Okay. So that's an additional cost that wasn't included in our breakdown of costs. With BS&A, I noticed that they've transferred many clients from fund balance. I reached out to a couple of the references in both the proposals. The Tyler Tech references, I wasn't able to get in touch with anyone. But with BS&A, I spoke with the finance director of the town of Jupiter Island, Michael Ventura, and they recently, I think it was 2 or 3 years ago, they've converted over from fund balance to BS&A, and they had the modules, the HR module, the payroll module, GL, utility billing. And with all of that, they said the conversion process was seamless. They don't have any issues with BS&A. They do have, I take that back, they do have one issue with the miscellaneous receivables module, which is a loan function. I don't think we'll be using that, but they said that they've had some issues with that specific module, but even with that, BS&A support has always been there, and they've been helping them through the process to work out those kinks. 2, with BS&A, their data conversion process, in their proposal, they 100% back up the data conversion. So I think with our small finance department, that will be helpful through the process and transitioning over to a new software. BS&A doesn't integrate with Elevon, which is our current credit card processor, but they did provide notes on how they would take that information and bring it into their software. They do have a Laserfish integration option, which is an additional $3,000. And let's see. I think those were my overall comments. As far as costs, I think both are kind of a wash. Tyler Tech is a little bit more annually, a little less upfront, with BS&A being more upfront costs and less annually. But from overall review of both proposals, I think both companies would be a good option for the town. But that's all my comments for now.
Okay, I'll jump in without being directed by the chair of the meeting. I will start by saying both products would serve our needs. Both products would get us to our end game of what we're looking to do, which is to improve efficiencies through a modernized, integrated enterprise resource planning system. And so with that being said, they both get us to the end game. They both get us to what we want. Now, that being said, there are a few items I know that you, Tricia, that you had mentioned about the hosted option through Tyler. I don't know that we need that because we're not a big town, and we don't. From my conversations with our infrastructure recently and in the past with Mark Rutledge, our IT consultant, we can more than adequately support what is necessary to host internally both items and maintain it. We do have a tertiary backup system in 3 locations, so we do have the security to back up all data that we put into this process, so I don't know that hosted. That being said, you'll see the comparison of costs that Matt had passed out, so I would concur with you that it appears it's a wash. But again, as you look at over the 5-year cost period that Matt has proposed, BSNA does come out less because of their annual fee is roughly about half of that of Tyler Tech. I did also recognize some of the concerns that you had mentioned with Tyler not being fully integratable and taking historical data, especially if we do the payroll. I'm guessing from looking at this that the finance director is going to suggest we not go to do payroll this way, but they don't. They would take a point in time and move forward with SmartGov data, with Paylocity data. They're just taking point in time, and really we would like to have that historical move. And BSNA will do that with the fund balance data, SmartGov, and Paylocity to the greatest extent with Paylocity. The other issue, again, I guess I see that Avalon. I don't know how much that is to change out. I don't know that that's a deal breaker. That being said, my friends, not so fast. As we move back over to Tyler Technology, they have a transaction fee for every online transaction or bill transaction of $1.25 that goes to Tyler Tech, in addition to any credit card fees that we either eat ourselves or pass on to our residents. So all of our end users, every time there's a transaction online for a bill pay, whether it's water and sewer, we eventually will get to the building department for all of the building permits and planning and site plan. Anytime there's a transaction online with Tyler's system, it's $1.25. So that's going to add on an additional cost that I don't see is clearly identified when we do a basic cost-to-cost analysis. There's this back-end cost that we have to kind of keep in our mind too, that for every transaction, it's $1.25 that would be added to it. Again, Paylocity doesn't really have much experience with SmartGov or the willingness to do the data conversions, and they said a full data conversion wasn't included in their proposal. And I kind of got that vibe when I read through Tyler Technology. Again, their product works just fine. They're a very large organization, up to almost $1 billion operation. And the complexity of their agreements, the hardware sales pitch that they push throughout their product, through their proposal, I think Tyler is maybe more suited for a larger community. And then with BSNA, again, they don't do cloud-based, but I've had my questions answered. Maybe when we get done here, Mark can kind of walk us that we can handle both pieces of it. They have experience with Paylocity, full SmartGov conversion. Cost of ownership over time is $9,300. Now, again, we look at the $9,300 for each. I'm sure their annual fees, both companies would be adjusted downward if we don't move forward with the payroll piece. I'm sure there's some cost reductions there. The Laserfish, we'd have to, with Tyler, go to the Tyler content management system and migrate everything from Laserfish over to their content management system. So there's a secondary, I don't want to say data conversion, but an extra step that would impact the clerk's office, that now everything we're used to in Laserfish, if we are used to it, we would have to move away from Laserfish and migrate over to Tyler. So there's yet another component of data conversion. So I thought that was very advantageous for BSNA to already have that relationship with Laserfiche, and that would make some simplicity of our content manager. And then we would just, when we upload into BSNA, it looks like you just have to point back to Laserfiche to pull that data up. So we wouldn't have that change as well. BSNA is 100% guarantee within the first year, so if we don't like it, there's that. I thought the cost is favorable a little bit more with BSNA than Tyler Technology. Again, both products, I keep on saying this just so the record reflects that both will do the product. We're really differentiating what we want to use at the end of the day. That being said, I've gone through a BSNA full conversion, so I would probably serve as a reference to BSNA. I've been through that experience, migrating multiple platforms, predominantly from a building code enforcement planning side of it from my previous employer. So we went through a large BSNA. Some of the same people that are on this proposal that would work with our integration are the same individuals, especially on the more community development side. Again, I'm kind of classified as a power user of BSNA, using all of its platforms. Outside, I have to say I'm not a big utility billing. While I've seen utility billing interface, it was never really in my wheelhouse to do that with utility billing. Or the special assessment districts we did a little bit with towards the end of my employ there, where we were doing assessment districts and they had that, but I don't know that we would have that utilization of that program. But worked through all of the building, planning, code enforcement, budgeting, finance, AP, accounts receivable, all of the HR programs. It has position budgeting and stuff of that. I don't know how robust we would be using some of those products, but again, as a small town, I think there would be some advantage to have somebody that's used it. Not that I am the end-all solution in it, but at the same point in time with Tyler, everybody's new to it. All of us would be new into this system. With BSNA, I have familiarity, so when we're doing training, and both of them in their proposals talk about training the trainer, I would be readily available to help move some of those pieces and help people when they have to do their purchasing, accounts receivable, those type of things that I've used quite significantly. The report builder is very robust, but it's a little bit tricky. But we could all learn it. And then as part of their thing, what they did for me before with BSNA is as part of your go live, they'll have somebody here that will build reports for you that you use most often. So if you have something that I like to report this out, I would think like for the FAB or their monthly finance report, you could just go in, hit the button, and there's your finance report.
Yeah, standard budget review.
Yeah, boom. Standard budget reports are in there, but if you needed something to craft, they'll help set up some of those initial reports. Again, when I scored it out, BSNA came out slightly ahead in the actual scoring mechanisms, coming out ahead more in the cost effectiveness and successful experience with our type of transition, seeing that they've done over 300 fund balance conversions. They do SmartGov, and they'll do all SmartGov data. I thought that would be helpful since we are implementing the building component, what they call their building and planning module. That will be part of it. With that being said, I'd also like for the record to know that all three of us on the selection panel did receive full day demos of their products from both companies prior to the RFP. One being that Tyler came as because they're our current provider of fund balance. They came in and gave us a demo of all of their stuff and their in-code building, and then their non-in-code, their more customized building software platforms. They did a long dissertation on that. And then BSNA was contacted as well because, again, they did a couple of local communities here in Florida. A nice little surprise, and had experience with them, so they were willing to come in and give us a demo. We were hoping other providers would bid on it, but I think because we wanted a completely integrated system, there's only a handful of providers that would do that. With that being said, I think I I'm leaning towards BSNA. I am not totally opposed if the rest of the group feels that Tyler is the better product, to say that we wouldn't be in a good position with them either, so.
Okay. My comments pretty much parallel what Teresa and Marshall said. I think both of these proposed solutions will serve the town's needs. Tyler is obviously our current vendor with a very old product, and in spite of its age, they provide pretty good support. I'm not sure that I like Tyler's approach with the user licenses and the additional cost. This 5-year comparison does not include any additional cost for, even though Tyler does come out a bit behind, it would come out even further behind if we added additional site licenses. 2 licenses are gonna make, or is gonna add another $1,000 difference every year going forward on this. So, and our guess is that we'd wanna have nearly every, certainly a larger number than 10 within the town to have access to the system in some manner, probably in the vicinity of 20-ish,
Well,
15 to 20-ish.
I think the beauty, and I think both when the price comparison you're doing was for a internally hosted, we need all users on this, especially if you're gonna do payroll. That if everybody's gonna be going in and entering their timesheets individually, you would need to have every employee have access to enter in their payroll data. If we don't go there, yes, the number would come down, but I think each department's gonna want multiple folks in there to enter purchasing orders, do general budget checkups, and the like.
Yeah, you don't have to count along to get very high up to a number of at least about a minimum of 25 to 30 to allow most of the employees who are going to need access to have access. And that would add another $15,000 a year to the cost of the Tyler solution.
Plus, I wanted the commissioners to have some base level of access, even if it's only on computers internally here, that they could come in and cruise through the financials, because they do tend to be more financially astute for an elected and our appointed bodies wanting data, that they could come in and go through the basic interface with the budget and finance stuff.
You know, as I mentioned, Tyler has been pretty good about supporting staff, but, you know, there's a difference between supporting 2 members of the finance department and supporting 25 members of the town. But I'm still sure that they could handle it. I like that there was no integration issues with BSNA. It doesn't appear that either conversion is going to be that troublesome based on their experience in prior conversions. I wasn't able to reach a number of the references listed in the proposals, but months ago I did speak with an employee at the town of Wilton Manors that had gone through an implementation of BSNA, and he was quite pleased with how that went and found their support and service levels outstanding. So can feel comfortable going either way. There's not all that much difference between the 2 systems when you get down to it in terms of most of what we do in the finance department. So I am comfortable either way, but for certain other reasons, I'm leaning more towards BSNA. I thought their proposal was more suited towards us and not just sort of a pat response that would be provided to any jurisdiction with an RFP. Even though we asked it in the follow-up questions, it didn't seem as if Tyler Tech could identify actual implementation team members who would be working on the town's account. All the staff that was recommended in both proposals seemed experienced. Obviously, the cost differential does start to matter when you get up to a cost that eventually is going to be in the 10% per year of the original implementation cost. So for that reasons, I'm sort of leaning towards BSNA. I guess it would probably be a good idea at this point.
If I could, just one quick thing on, to Mark, but the cost of, just even more on the financial side that I thought was interesting, I saw is that year to year, Tyler sets its fees for your annual cost of maintenance that you saw in there at about $17,136. BSNA is written, there's a cap, so there's a CPI cap. They can't go faster than the rate of inflation on increasing this cost. So there was a little bit of a backstop or a predictable nature of what we're going to be running into down the road, that it would be at least backed by the CPI numbers.
For comparison purposes in developing this 5-year cost, I just assumed that both of them were going up at about 3% per year. Just to sort of keep it even, but, you know, it obviously doesn't make that huge a difference because, you know, at the end of year 5, we're at a cost difference of 20,000, which is only going to grow about 10,000 a year after that. So given that the town's history has been to maybe have 15, 20 years between new financial information systems, that could become a significant sum of money.
And both of them, I think, it kind of perpetuated that they're an evergreen system. So potentially we are looking at a long-term ownership based on, Tyler calls it their evergreen program. So all their new updates and stuff were phased in every year. BSNA, without calling it a specific program, you get uploaded with the newest, latest, and greatest based on work groups. So we will be having a continually evolving platform rather than a stagnant platform that, you know, has to be completely replaced at additional costs like we're doing today or experiencing today.
Okay, wanted to turn it over to Mark Rutledge for a minute, just to sort of ensure that if there are any technical issues or hardware issues that we need to be aware of that would impact our ability to implement with either firm.
So both of them, they demand the same amount of resources for workstations. The minimum requirements for the end user workstations, the employees using it, they require a minimum of 8 gigs of RAM. They're recommended at least 8 gigs of RAM, 80 gigs of hard drive space free with Windows 10. Every computer in the entire infrastructure is Windows 10. You have more than enough hard drive space on all the computers. I think you guys at minimum have 500 gig SSDs in there, and they're using probably 100 gigs, so you have another 400 gigs on there. So every workstation meets and exceeds the requirements of both software. BSNA is a little bit heavier because they require the 80 gigs, whereas on Tyler's side, they only require 10 gigs of disk space, which, again, it's nominal. It's not that big of a deal either way. As far as the server requirements, we would host on BSNA. They recommend a physical server, but you don't really need to. They say they support a Hyper-V server, which is how we would set them up. It's technically a virtual machine. We would have a dedicated hard drive array, a RAID array, strictly for the BSNA's virtual machine. Our server meets and exceeds all the requirements. We could actually hold several BSNA servers on our server and run them in conjunction with absolutely no issues whatsoever. The benefit on BSNA's side is being that it is a local server physically here. You're going to have direct access to the server regardless of environmental issues, say like the internet goes out. It doesn't matter. You still have access to your internal network, which means that when you're utilizing the software, everybody's going to have access to it 100%. Whereas if you go with the SaaS option, software as a service on Tyler's side, they actually host the physical machine in their data center. So there are some other things that can interfere. If our internet goes down, you don't have access. If their internet goes down, they don't have access. If they have some sort of issue within their data center, we don't have access until that's fixed. Whereas if our only point of failure for BSNA is physically right here. So that's the benefit there. But as far as us housing and our infrastructure, the town can house both solutions with absolutely no problem whatsoever. And the workstations can handle the workload, the demand for both solutions. So there's not really an issue there.
If I may ask a question, is Tyler Tech right now, Fund Balance, is that currently on a virtual machine?
Yes, it's currently on a virtual machine.
Okay.
Yes.
Sorry, as I write a few notes here. All right then, unless, does anybody, any members have any other comments or questions? Questions for Mark first, I guess.
No questions from you?
No questions for Mark? No?
Okay, well, if anybody does anybody have any other comments they would like to make?
I'm glad we're
on the
doing this.
Proposals?
Regardless of the system, I'm glad we're at this point finally.
Yes.
And I start to see the finish line, at least the course in front, to implementation. Again, based on the conversations, based on the feedback from our IT consultant, again, I'm leaning towards BSNA. So just to make my position clear. But again, I can always be swayed.
And for me as well, I don't think I stated it for the record, but I am leaning more towards BSNA as well. But I think both, as we mentioned, both companies will give us what we need.
Okay, and I'm sort of leaning that way too. If you could,
I will make a motion.
well, let's see our scores.
Okay, so for
ratings?
BSNA, I had 97. For Tyler Tech, I had 91. And I will be handing over said items to the chair of the selection committee.
Thank you.
For BSNA, I had 88, and Tyler Tech, I have 83. Handing them to the chair of the selection committee.
Thank you. For myself, I had Tyler rated at 87, and I have BSNA rated at 97. So, I'm gonna do some quick math because I am not the Rain Man.
The suspense is killing me.
I know.
Well, I don't think there's any suspense, given if you're listening to numbers at all.
Yes, I know.
Just wanted to double check my math. And for BSNA, we have a total of 282 points. For Tyler, we have a total of 261. Based on that, it clearly seems that the selected firm, or the first-ranked firm would be BSNA, the second-ranked firm would be Tyler. It's our job to make a recommendation to the town commission, and I would entertain a recommendation from committee member.
I will make a motion that we award the IT ERP RFP to BSNA based on scoring and the thoughtful discussion by the selection committee.
I second that motion.
All in favor, indicate aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, well, I think what we came here to do is sort of done. We have made a recommendation to the town commission. We will take it, I guess, their next meeting would be the first meeting in April, because that next meeting is just a swearing-in ceremony. So we'll take it the first meeting in April to make that recommendation to them. and seek their authority to begin contract negotiations.
Sounds good.
All right, with that, this meeting is adjourned at 10:32.
All right, thank you, everyone.